What is up, everybody? I am Mason from the Mockbuster YouTube channel, and today we're going to be talking about some 4K Blu-rays. 4K Blu-rays I've recently started collecting, and they've absolutely blown my mind. They've entirely changed my thoughts on the perfect way to watch a movie. For at least a century, the best way to watch a movie was the theatrical experience, paying a ticket to see it in the theaters. But I feel like as technology has increased from VHS to DVD to Blu-ray and now into 4K, I personally believe that 4K Blu-rays are the perfect way, the best way to experience a film. I even spent thousands of dollars just to support this form of media, and I believe that it was 100% worth it. This is the best way to experience films, and today I'm going to be talking about some 4K Blu-rays that honestly disappointed me. So to preface, I have only been collecting 4Ks for the past 6 months, so I tend to steer away from overtly bad 4K transfers. So things like Terminator 2 and Gremlins and Goonies are not going to be on here because I know those are quite disappointing. But so these are some of these which I blind bought, or I thought I expected, the world from. Some of these were from my early pickups, the early days of collecting 4Ks. And to start, I'm going to be starting with Bumblebee. Now, if you say, yeah, obviously it's going to be a shit transfer. Well, I didn't know this. This was like $10, and I had some high expectations because this is a modern day film. I was expecting some crispy, clean sharpness and some decent HDR features, and I got none of those. Even the CGI doesn't really look that good. It's passable as a 4K, but I feel like if I got just a Blu-ray, I would have been 100% fine with that too. Now next is Venom, Let There Be Carnage. Now I know from my previous spot in this list, you're going to expect, hey, it's a CG fest, what did you expect? But I actually expected a lot from this because surprisingly enough, the first Venom on 4K was actually a very good looking 4K. It was like a 7.5 or even an 8 out of 10 for me. It was very sharp and the HDR looked really good. So when I came into this expecting, wow, there's going to be a red villain, the main villain's gonna be red, I had very high expectations. But it just very let me down. I don't know what it was. I mean, the CGI looked pretty bad. There were some highlights. It just didn't do it for me. And comparing it to the first film, it's just, I don't know. And why don't these movies have 4K digital intermediates? Like, we're in the scene where things are being shot now in 6 to 8K, and we have a 2K DI. So, anyways, that was Venom: Let There Be Carnage. Quite a disappointing film, and quite a boring film as well. Now next was a huge surprise to me on how lackluster this 4K transfer was, and that is Die Hard. I also did a 4K review on this on Christmas Day. I recorded a review on this because it's kind of a Christmas movie, not really. It takes place on Christmas Eve. But for a movie with a 4K DI made on film, I was expecting this to be a great looking transfer, but in fact it was kind of the opposite. It was a bit dull, it was a bit lackluster. HDR really did nothing for this film. A lot of it takes place indoors as well, so I don't know if there's going to be that much of a need for a uptick in whatever it could be showing. And thankfully there's no DNR, but I feel like even so, it's a very, very grain heavy film. If you hate grain, this is a really grain heavy film. And someone's like, oh yeah, but if you remove the grain, you're gonna remove detail. But I feel like this movie wasn't really shot that well. I mean, the miniatures in certain aspects look really cheesy, which I guess is, it's Die Hard. It's supposed to be a nice, cheesy, fun action movie. But in fact, the story is great. It's just the transfer left me wanting more, especially for a movie made in the 80s, made on film with a 4K digital intermediate, with a limitless digital intermediate. It just didn't, do it for me, and I was actually quite disappointed with this transfer. Now next was a huge surprise for me, and that is Prince of Darkness, John Carpenter movie, one of his lesser known movies, but it does star Daniel Pleasence in it, not starring, but he's in the film. It's just, again, same with Die Hard, I don't think there was that much of an opportunity for this to look really, really good. I feel like it's still definitely going to be the best way to watch this film. It's just, when I got this film, I spent like $37 just to pick this up, and I don't think it was worth it. I feel like if you got that original Scream Factory Blu-ray, I think you should be fine with that, because this 4K really doesn't add much to the visual experience. HDR doesn't really, shine out to me. Not to say that this is a bad 4K. It's just, it does the job. There is sharp moments, but it's not going to be that wow, dude. 4K. It's gonna be serviceable and passable, and it still is gonna be the best way to watch this film. It's just not gonna be the greatest way. Like there's a roof of 4K is really up here, and then it just doesn't reach that level of expectations, especially for a John Carpenter film. So let's hope Escape from Precinct 13 is better than this. Now, next was actually another surprise for me, and that was the first Mummy 4K. It comes in a 3-pack, but I decided to get the entire, they're released individually, but I decided to get the 3-pack. The first one is weird. There's this weird tint over it which remove any tones. So any HDR scenes, when they're in caves, when they're indoors, there's no way where for HDR to shine. Now there are some, decent sharp levels, some sharp scenes. Black levels are okay, but again, I'm using a OLED TV, so you're gonna, automatically see good black levels for that. But it's just, I don't know, like I expected a lot from this really big budget, grandiose film. Some shots were not that great. Grain structure was decent. It's just, again, this movie has a weird tinge to it, to where things like the color of people's faces, they don't really pop. They don't really have those overtones, because HDR is one of the biggest selling factors when it comes to a 4K digital, not 4K digital, but a 4K physical media, the reason why people are spending this is $70 brand new. I got for $20, thankfully, used. But if I paid $70 for this, I'd be pissed, because this was actually a bit of a disappointment. HDR is not that good, and the sharpness. I mean, there's some certain scenes where you do see wow, this looks pretty good, but for the most part, it just looks Definitely the best way, but not the greatest way to watch this film. But also that could be from its source material. It's just for what I expected. It just didn't really deliver that well. Now, this next 4K Blu-ray actually really surprised me on how meh it was, and that is Peter Jackson's King Kong on 4K Blu-ray. Now, is this the worst 4K transfer I've ever seen? No, far from it. But is this the most disappointing? Yeah, it was quite disappointing, especially for a Peter Jackson film. Obviously it is early CGI, not too early, but there has been some advancements. It's just, when it's at home, when they're at home, and before they go to the island, this film looks great. Certain scenes are here and there, there's certain soft spots, but once they get into that island, once there's a lot of green screen and backing, a lot of the silhouettes of people look very obviously that they're rotoscoped in. It just takes away from that feeling of that cinematic experience. Shots of King Kong, wide shots, are very soft. I was actually surprised on how soft they were. But for a 4K experience, I really expected more. And even the HDR doesn't really deliver that much. For that volcano scene when she's being sacrificed, you don't really get that deep, rich red that I was highly expecting, especially for the sticker that says HDR, for deeper, richer, more lifelike color. I didn't really get that. It was a bit dull, and there's this weird filter over it. I don't know how to explain it. Like if you ever watched Rocky Balboa, there's that weird filter that makes it look new, it's a weird stylistic choice that I really didn't appreciate, because it takes away from the tones. It looked a bit over contrasted, and I just didn't like that look of it. Lifelike colors, no, it looked like a over exaggeration of colors. But even then, it just didn't really service the film that I wanted it to. Not saying this is a bad transfer, I'll still watch it. It's just when it comes to this level of, hey, this is probably the highest form of quality when we're gonna get for physical media. Who knows? Maybe we're gonna get 8K Blu-ray, but honestly, at this point, I highly doubt it, because like 4Ks are great. It's just, what's selling is DVDs. And when people realize, oh, I'm gonna have to re-go, like when studios like, oh, you want me to re-release this in a higher format and spend all that money just to, print it on a higher disc, they're probably not gonna go through all that stuff. So 4K is gonna be the best. And if this is the best we can get, I'm kind of sad because I feel like this could be better. But again, this is also another movie where it's the sign of the times. The CGI wasn't that, oh my God, So they'd have to remake this, and it'd cost way too much money. But again, this is still not the worst transfer. It's just something that didn't leave an emotional impact on me as compared to earlier movies from Peter Jackson. Like even the Lord of the Rings movies look absolutely great. So yeah, so I don't have them, but I borrowed them from a friend, and they looked absolutely amazing, and I need to get those soon. But until then, I have this, and it's just eh. Now this last one, a lot of these 4K transfers have been okay, and this one is an actual bad transfer. Like this movie is bad. This is the most disappointing 4K transfer in my collection. I recently did reviews for this, so if you know what movie this is, yeah, it's actually extremely disappointing and an actual quite bad like looking film, especially when it's compared to its not predecessors, but we'll follow this movie. Some people call those like reference quality discs, and this is far from it, and that is Batman Begins on 4K Blu-ray. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Soft, the HDR doesn't work. It's just an overall, like certain scenes I made a full review. Click the banner over there, or the sticker, or whatever it's called, to see my full thoughts on it. I highly suggest you watch it, because I don't feel like a lot of people are talking about this transfer, because people are like, oh my God, Dark Knight's amazing, oh my God, Dark Knight Rises is amazing, but no one really talks about the mediocrity and actually downright bad like visuals. This is a quite bad like looking film. Is it the worst? No. But Christopher Nolan, most of it's made on film, and you'd expect that, really, great looking, imagery, and you don't really get that. The HDR as well is quite lackluster, very lackluster, not grainy, but like, especially when it, like, there's only a few scenes, when it comes to CG, especially that bullet train, whatever, that train, that looked god awful. That looked so bad. I feel like they should have just done miniatures for that scene, but they wanted to do CG. I don't know why Christopher Nolan didn't do miniatures, but I guess that's whatever. But yeah, this 4K transfer really disappointed me, and that made me sad. Like especially comparing it to the Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises, this just looks. Ugh, everything looks mighty. The HDR doesn't really deliver, and it's not even that sharp. So yeah, this is the most disappointing film. And yeah, so those were the most disappointing 4K Blu-rays in my collection again, and also in my own opinion. So maybe some of these movies you're used to seeing on DVD or whatever, you've seen it in lower quality, and then you're actually surprised on how good it is. For me, most of these movies that I've owned on Blu-ray, and because you spend that extra money upgrading them. Some of these cost a lot of money, like that Prince of Darkness, that costed me quite a bit of money, and for it to be okay is not the best feeling. So you might have a different list, and I want to hear that. So let me know down below, what are the most disappointing movies in your 4K Blu-ray collection? I know we try to pick and select, because 4K is more of a niche collector's item, so we don't really go around picking up bullshit 4Ks. We study more about them. But yeah, that was my video. I have been Mason again from the Mockbuster YouTube channel. Please leave a like if you liked, and subscribe to stick along if you enjoy physical media content such as Blu-ray hunts, Blu-ray movie reviews, as well as lists and unboxings and all that fun stuff. Make sure to stay tuned and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you know whenever I'm uploading, and sometimes you might get a little treat, and I'm joking. So make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Again, I have been Mason for the Mockbuster YouTube channel. Please have a good day, night, evening, afternoon. Whenever you're watching this, please stay safe and God bless. Cheers, guys.